that could be one of two things. Like it could be an issue with the marketing. Like maybe you're just not speaking the language, which is why going back to your avatar and like when we talk about learning their pain points, like you should be learning their pain points through individual conversations with them. It's not scalable. It's going to take you a really long time and it's hard to do. And that's why people win when they do it, because there's a high barrier.
To the Unleash Success Podcast, where we break down the secrets of success to give you real tools and strategies that get real results. And now, here's your host, Corey Corpodian.
Welcome back to Unleash Success. If you haven't subscribed to our newsletter yet, just go to unleashsuccess.com, enter your email so you can get all the tools and strategies sent directly to you each and every week. Today, I'm super excited. We're going to be interviewing Kate Erickson from Entrepreneurs on Fire. She's going to give us a breakdown of their strategy to build a 7-figure empire and what it takes behind the scenes to do just that. Kate, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Corey, thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to be here, and thanks for everyone tuning in. Spend some time with us today. We'll have some fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And I know a lot about your backstory. I just haven't talked to you before. But I was wondering if you could share how you got into Entrepreneurs on Fire and specifically what motivated you to become an entrepreneur yourself.
Yeah. So what motivated me to become an entrepreneur is finally figuring out that entrepreneurship existed, because my background's like very typical corporate, go to college, get a college degree, go find a job that has something to do with that degree, and climb the corporate ladder. And so that's kind of what I knew. And I had a very like focused vision for that. Success to me was getting pay raises and getting a better title. Maybe someday I'll be a manager, that type of thing. So when I missed out on a pretty big promotion at one of my corporate jobs that I had been working at for a while, and found out that they actually hired outside of the company to fill that position instead of me, who had been, working really hard for like 3.5 years, never had like a title change or like a movement. And I was at the bottom of the ladder in that position. So like they could have thrown me a bone at some point, but
right.
That actually ended up being a really major mindset shift for me, and kind of smacking me in the face with like, nobody else going to give you what you want, Kate. Like, if you don't want to be sitting in this low level position trying to like claw your way up this ladder, then why are you doing it? And it was really that experience when I didn't get that promotion that I thought there has to be something else out there. I don't know what it is, but like there's just no way that this is all for me, that like the rest of my life looks like this, because I couldn't accept that. Like I was in such a bad place mentally, I guess, with thinking that that's what I would do for the rest of my life, that I was like, there has to be something else. So started doing a lot of research, and that really, to answer your initial question, that was my motivation for becoming an entrepreneur. I was like, I can't spend the rest of my life doing this. I'm miserable. Like I hate getting up in the morning, taking the bus, to catch the trolley, to go into an office, to, sit and stare at the wall and just feel like I have no purpose. Like I'm just doing what other people tell me to do. And I mean, furthermore, like what I was doing was working in like a human resources department, and this was 2008 timeframe. So basically my job was to lay other people off. And like, that just wasn't, that wasn't fulfilling. That wasn't motivating. It was really sad. And like, I just felt yucky at the end of the day. So that's when I finally, I feel like the biggest thing is that I started surrounding myself with different people. I had met a couple of people around that time frame that, that they didn't go into a typical 9-to-5 job. And my neighbor named John Lee Dumas was one of those people. And I thought like, man, I wake up at 5 a.m. I'm going to the gym. I'm coming home. I'm showering. I'm catching the bus. I'm doing the trolley. I have this grueling day of like all this grossness. And then I come back home and John just hanging out in the patio, this common area at our complex, doing his thing on a laptop computer. I'm like, want to do what that guy does. So, I kind of talked to him about what he was up to. And at the time he was in real estate. So he wasn't technically running his own business, but it was very much like on his own terms. He made money when he worked hard and went out there and like sought it out. And so that's what motivated me to become an entrepreneur. But it wasn't for another year and a half at least until I joined the team with John. And through then, I tried to start my own business and failed at that, but learned tons of lessons through that. Ended up going back to corporate and getting a job in advertising and marketing that time around, which was a huge help and such a great experience for what I do now. I had a great mentor at a small agency, and I handled one of the agency's biggest clients. So I learned so much through that. That really taught me of like, I might not want to be in corporate, like this might not be my life path, but how can I leverage this experience to help me with what I want to do moving forward? And that was really eye-opening for me, because before it was like you're forced to sit at a corporate job and you hate it and that's the end, period. But then I got to a point where I was like, okay, I don't want to be in corporate right now, and I'm not going to do advertising and marketing for the rest of my life in the agency world. But what can I learn? What skills can I develop right now that can help me if I do go out and start my own business or whatever it might be?
So you went back into corporate world after trying to start your own business.
I did.
Okay. And so you went back. Wow, that's a pretty big step. And then you were actually enjoying it though, more learning from it. What made you jump back out then?
So I had been working at the agency, the corporate job that I went back to after I failed at trying to start my own business. And about 7 or 8 months into that, actually just a few months into that, John emailed me one day while I was at work and said, "Hey, I have this idea. I want to start a podcast." He was working in commercial real estate at the time. We had moved to Maine together, and I was like, I don't even know what a podcast is. I'm not like sure what you're talking about here, but you seem really, really excited about it. So like, yes, 110% support. So he quit his commercial real estate job, which was a pretty big motivator for me to still have my job, because we really didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, luckily, John had great financial runway and like has been very smart with his finances his entire life. Me, not so much. So I was like, I'll stay at my job and you try this podcasting thing, whatever that means. And within 6 months of him launching the podcast, he had grown an audience, started generating consistent revenue, and had a bunch of like big ideas that he wanted to start implementing, and like all these strategies that he wanted to take to the next level. But he just had one virtual assistant. And so he came to me and he said, "What do you think about helping me and like quit your job? Come join the team at Entrepreneurs on Fire. I have these ideas. I really think that like you're detailed. You're a project manager. You have an advertising and marketing background. Like I really think that we could do big things together if you quit your job and join." And I said no, because that really freaked me out. Like we had only been dating for about a year at that point, and we were like pretty fresh, having like just moved in together. We just moved across the country to Maine together. Like lots of like upset, huge life changes had been happening within the past year. And then he asked me to quit my job and start working with him. And that really freaked me out a lot. Like I was kind of still resistant to change at that point. And nervous about like what it would do to our relationship and like where do I actually fit into this business, because I didn't really understand that part either. Like he was excited about the projects he had in mind and he wanted me to come on the team, but I'm like, what exactly am I going to do? Because I don't want to be like a secretary or like scheduling your appointments for you type of thing, you know?
Right. Yeah. And so you said no, and then did he come back a couple months later? What made you say yes eventually?
Yeah. So when we first talked about it and I said no, I expressed to him that was my reason why I was saying no, is the one, the relationship part, and two, like, I need a better idea of what you're actually asking me to do here. Like, I want to know where I fit in and what this means for me. Like, what am I doing on a day-to-day basis, basically? And so over the next couple months, we really spent time individually and then together hashing through that. Like, what would it look like if I joined the team? Like, I made a list of all the things I really like doing that I'm good at. Like, I love picking into the details of things. Like, you show me a contract, like, I'm going to read every single word and try and tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't sign it. Like, I'm good at that. And I kind of like doing it. I don't know why I geek out on that kind of stuff. Same with like setting up systems and having a process for things. Like, I'm very process oriented. I like figuring out how to do things that, like, somebody has an idea and they don't know how to make that happen, but they can see the vision for it. I'm not like a visionary person. I don't really have like these big, fantastic ideas where I like see this outcome down, like, 6 months down the road. I just see like, what does the backside of that look like? Like, how you want to create an online course that you sell to people? Like, what kind of software do you use? And how do you record the videos? And how, like, why would you want to have PDFs as a part of that as opposed to not having PDF downloads? Like, I like all that stuff. So us individually kind of going off and me saying like, what do I like doing and what am I good at? And then John saying, these are the areas that like, I just basically am not good at. Like, these are the things that I can't fulfill for like getting to the vision that I see. And luckily those ended up matching up really well. Like, basically everything that he couldn't do or see were all the things that I love doing. And so when we came back together and kind of compared notes and kind of talked about it in that way, I was like, okay, I get it now. Like, I see myself there. I get the vision. I understand what you're trying to do. Like, let's do this.
Yeah. And before we get into actually, because I really want to go into those strategies and the processes that you guys figured out to grow your business so fast to over 2.4 million. And I think that was actually the 2014 statistic too. And you guys are killing it now. When you were talking about your story and the pain that, you thought about your life, if you had lived working this job 9 to 5 and were so unfulfilled, you were just so honest with it. And something I've been playing around with is fear lately. And, when you gain a level of success, you get very comfortable, but playing around with what that fear is or that future fear. And so I'm just curious for you, is there some fear of something that motivates you right here and now to keep on pushing forward?
I would say, honestly, the fear of like not being able to continue the impact that we've started. Like, is something that John and I are both really passionate about is the ripple effect. Like, me impacting one person means that one person now has the tools and the ability to go out and impact a person themselves. And that ripple effect can be massively huge if you have a big audience and you have a motivated audience who is ready to take that information and take action and do something with it. And I feel like we are in a very special place to where our audience is like that. Like, they come to us for tools and strategies and advice on how to start their own business. And I worry that if we're not doing what we're doing, that's that many more people that might not be getting the tools and the strategies and that motivation to go out and do it. And then what happens to all the people that they could have touched, that they could have reached or inspired or motivated? And that really drives me. I think it's a big deal. And when I was in corporate, I spent a really big part of my life feeling like instead of inspiring and motivating people, I was crushing people's lives. Like, they've been working at this company for 20 years and I'm suddenly telling them that they no longer have a job. Like, that was a terrible feeling. I never want to feel that way. But like, today, when I get to receive an email from somebody who went through our podcasting course or who's been listening to the podcast for, 5, almost 6 years now, and they've changed their life because of it. They've quit their job. They've started their own business. They get to spend time with their family. They go on vacations whenever they want. Like, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, 1000%. I mean, that is incredible. And, I don't get emails every day, but every now and then when somebody sends me a message from listening to the podcast, it is truly not just heartwarming, but like really fulfilling. Like you're fulfilling your purpose. Like, hey, this is something that actually means something to other people. And it's I think a very fulfilling mission. And I really appreciate that answer too.
Yeah, totally.
So let's get into kind of like the strategies and the success story of you guys and building Entrepreneurs on Fire. And one thing that I love, because I had interviewed JLD very early on in this podcast, hilarious story, the audio cut out, which was like, well, yeah, I know. He was super cool about it, which I loved. He was great. And, I only got about 15 minutes of his time, but, interviewing you, because your side of the business is something that, a lot of people really do struggle with. And a lot of entrepreneurs are that I've got this huge idea and now like, how do I implement it? And this podcast is all about figuring out what actions we can take to get us real results. And so here we are now with you, who literally has the pathway for success. And so where should we get started? Let's say we have a big idea. We've got something that we want to do. What's the steps to get it started?
Okay, so I'll lay out a framework that has worked for us and that has worked for a lot of other people who we've shared it with. But I want to say up front that everyone's business is different. Everyone's time that they can dedicate to it is different. Maybe you have a full-time job right now. Maybe you have all the time in the world and you're bored and you can't wait to dive in. So depending on what your situation and depending on what type of business you're running, like these steps will be your foundation. I can assure you that. Are they going to make you 7 figures? You have to start and find that out, right? But if you have your big idea and you're ready to get started, I think the most important and critical step, which I did not do when I first started my own business that failed within 6 months because I never got one customer, is I never defined my avatar. I didn't know who my ideal consumer, reader, listener, viewer, customer was. And if you don't know that, then you're going to struggle really hard with trying to get your big idea to people, because you might have dreams of impacting all these people and you want to scoop this huge, get a net out there and get tens of thousands of people. But if you don't know who they are, you can't go out and find them and talk to them in the way that you need to talk to them in order for them to be interested in what you have to offer. So defining your avatar is so important, and it's not just about demographics. It's not, hey, Corey, my avatar is Gina and she's 25 and she's a female. Let's go get her. It has to be, what are Gina's biggest pain points? What does she struggle with? What pains her so much that she would, that she goes and Googles it? And what does she type into Google when she Googles it? And where does Gina want to be? What's the bridge that she needs to get from where she is right now to where she wants to be? What are her dreams, her aspirations? What does her perfect day look like? When you understand your ideal reader, listener, viewer, consumer, customer, whatever it might be, when you understand them on that level, then you get to build the bridge. But until you know what that bridge is, until you know how you can help that person, you are going to be stuck. You're not going to know where to go because you don't have anybody to help guide you. And that's reason number 2 why your avatar is so important, because once you know them on that super intimate level, you can ask them all the questions that you have, how many days a week should I publish on my blog? What should my podcast be about? How long should my podcast be? What should I create videos about? Should I be on Facebook or Instagram? Or do I need to be on Twitter and Google Plus? And all these questions, your avatar has the answers, because if I know who they are, if I know who Gina is, I can just be does Gina go on Facebook? I don't think so, because she's more of a visual person. She's going to be on Instagram. So I'm going to focus on Instagram instead of Facebook. Or does Gina have an hour to listen to a podcast episode? Well, let's say Gina has kids and she's the soccer mom that's always on the go and she's rushing to and fro. Maybe Gina just wants a 15-minute, super quick, here's your tip, be on with your day. So that's the most important first step, is knowing who your avatar is.
Yeah, no, and that's huge too. In fact, actually, when I first started out, I was kind of confused on mine as well. I was like, oh, I'm going to motivate everybody. And I think a big part about that too, that you said is you're going to figure out who your avatar is and where you want to take them by creating a bridge. And if you don't know who they are in the beginning and where you want to take them to end, you can't build that bridge, and basically that's your funnel to get these people to be customers and to truly help them. Mm-hmm. So I love that analogy. Yeah. So you figure out your avatar, you really detail that person, and then you're able to start kind of identifying their pain points. And say you create something where you're like, all right, I'm going to create a online course, for instance. What are the steps that we need to go through to really like build something that, one, is profitable, two, okay, we're identifying the pain points, but it's like, I feel like sometimes people will have ideas, they're like, it solves a problem, but yet nobody buys it. What's going on there? What's the disconnect?
Yeah, that's so sneaky, huh? You're like, everybody's going to want this, and then nobody wants it. That could be one of two things. Like, it could be an issue with the marketing. Like, maybe you're just not speaking the language, which is why going back to your avatar, and like when we talk about learning their pain points, like you should be learning their pain points through individual conversations with them. It's not scalable. It's going to take you a really long time, and it's hard to do. And that's why people win when they do it, because there's a high barrier. So when you go out there and you find your avatar, like let's say you want to create a course for fishing. You want to help people learn how to fish. I really enjoy being out on my boat, but I never catch a fish. Like, my dream is to put up on a plaque in my house like that, 20-pound bass. How do I do it? Like, if that's your person, then you go out and find them and have one-on-one conversations with them by going on, let's say, Facebook and Googling fishing groups. And when you find fishing groups of fishing enthusiasts, of people who love to fish and that's their life and that's what they talk about and they want to get better at fishing, you start being an active participant of those groups, and you provide value and you ask questions and you answer people's questions and you create content that when you are answering people's questions, perhaps after you become a valuable member of this community, you can start directing people to your content. These are the people that you're going to have one-on-one conversations with, that you find in online communities, that you find at meetups through meetup.com, that maybe you go to a fishing event. Maybe there's like a fishing expo where they showcase lures and whatever else these people do. I'm not a fisher, so I'm kind of making stuff up right now.
That was a great analogy, though. I was like, oh, yeah, exactly. That's who you want to talk to. Okay, I get it.
So you got to go out and find those people and talk to them. And so it's not only important because that's how you're getting your pain points, but it's so important because they're going to tell you in their own words what that pain is like. Because I could go out and put up a sales page for a course that teaches people how to catch a 20-pound bass, but if I'm not speaking their language, they're not going to care. It's not going to resonate with them. They're not going to go to my sales page and say, Kate knows exactly what I need. Like, she's literally taking the words out of my mouth. Have you ever listened to like a podcast or a TV commercial or like seen an ad pop up on Instagram and you're like, how did they know that I needed this? Like, they're saying exactly what I would have said about it. Like, they're showing me the picture I need to see. Like, they've done their market research. They know exactly how to word it. Like, those words are not a mistake. And I can guarantee you the people in that marketing department probably did not come up with those words. Their perfect customer came up with those words and said them to them. So once you've got that, you've done your research and you have those pain points directly from your avatar from one-on-one conversations, and you're using the language that they would use, you need to set up some type of proof of concept, because now we're talking about like, I'm trying to sell something to people and I don't want to create it and waste all this time and bandwidth and energy if nobody wants to buy it. So get the proof of concept, which is somebody actually pulling out their wallet and paying you money for it before you create it. And I know that sounds crazy. And I know that so many people, they just want to go out and create it because they think that they have to have something to hand people when they hand them money, like in exchange for their money. But there's so much value in one, giving someone like a early access opportunity, especially if that person feels like they get to be a part of shaping what this is. And two, everyone loves to save money. So if they're saving money by getting in a couple weeks before you create it, trust me, they will be really happy about that. Now, a concrete example of this is exactly what we did with Podcasters Paradise, the online community and course that we built for podcasters to help them create, grow, and monetize their podcasts. We had a lot of people reaching out to us. We had a lot of one-on-one conversations with so many people in our audience asking John how he started his podcast. How'd you do that? How'd you know what microphone to buy? How did you know how to interview people? How'd you get these interview people on your show? How'd you get sponsors? Like how do you get so many listeners? Like how do I get that many listeners? And through hearing all this consistent feedback about this pain point of not knowing how to create, grow, and monetize their podcast, we created Podcasters Paradise in our minds. Like we didn't actually go out and create the community and the platform and all of that. Like we were just thinking in our heads, what if we had online video training? And what if we had a community of people who could help support each other on their podcasting journey? So what we did is all those people who had been asking us all those questions, we asked them if they wanted to sign up for an interest list for a new podcasting community that we were creating. So we asked the people who we had talked to, we put it in the online communities that we were a part of, we put it out to our existing audience, which is why it's so important that you have that foundation, that platform, the valuable, consistent content so that you're creating an audience that you can actually go to and ask, like, would you be interested in this? And we held a proof of concept webinar. And on that webinar, we delivered 45 minutes of pure value about podcasting. We taught people how to create, grow, and monetize your podcast. And at the end, we said, would you guys be interested in having access to us, like me, John, and Kate, and maybe some video tutorials and an online membership, and we could create a Facebook group so you guys could lean on each other for feedback and support? And if yes, we'd like to offer you an early access opportunity. We have not created this course yet, very transparent. If you want to join, it's $197. We will give you lifetime access to what we're creating. We'll even let you be the ones to tell us what you want in it, and we'll create whatever you guys want. Any video tutorials you want to see, whatever that might be. And we got 50 people to pay us $197 to join Podcasters Paradise before Podcasters Paradise ever existed. And that was our proof of concept and our go-ahead to actually create that community. So proof of concept is so important. And I'm talking not proof of concept and like, yes, that sounds really cool, I'll totally buy it, but like, here is money for you.
Yeah.
Take my money. And that is me proving to you that I want it.
I love the transparency aspect that you just said about just being like, we don't have it. And I've heard this philosophy in some ways from other people too. And some people just have this fear of doing it. How did you get over that? How did you say, you know, we're not going to worry about it? Is it just coming up front and saying like, we have nothing, but we've got all this experience? What did you guys say exactly?
Yeah, you know, so the unique position that we were in at that time, which is why I mentioned and should put even more emphasis on the importance of having a foundation, having some sort of audience, because you've already built authority and credibility, likely with the people who are joining you on this proof of concept webinar. You've already built know, like, and trust with them. They've, for example, been tuning into your podcast for an entire year. They've taken free courses that you offer on your website. They read your blog. They've downloaded checklists that you provided as opt-in giveaways for your email newsletter list. You're consistent with following up with them. You provide value on a weekly basis via an email newsletter. And I know that sounds like a lot, but like, those are the things that you have to do before you get to start selling stuff. Like, we did not start making 7 figures by just starting a podcast and then selling people things. It was a lot of in between of creating a lot of content, a lot of authority, a lot of credibility, a lot of know, like, and trust before we were ever able to do something like that webinar. And so because of that authority and credibility, because of that know, like, trust, there was really no hesitation with saying, this is what it is. Like, you guys have told us that you want this and we're willing to build it, but we need you to prove it to us with money.
What do you think are some common mistakes along the path of trying to create and sell a product that entrepreneurs make?
They try and do it before they've grown an audience. I really do think that that's one of the biggest things. I mean, like, Facebook ads came along and you know, all different kinds of ads really, but like, I see Facebook as such a huge one because there's just like, there's so many courses out there on, like, you know, how to crush it with Facebook ads. And like, yeah, a lot of people do crush it with Facebook ads, but they crush it with Facebook ads because they have an audience and they can build custom audiences and lookalike audiences, and they have authority and they're connected to people. Like, they
advertise towards their email list of people they've already collected and built authority with.
Exactly. I think
it's not just a random person.
Yeah. And so I would say that's definitely number one, is they try and do that before they've built an audience, before they've created valuable, consistent, free content by way of a blog or a podcast or videos on YouTube or like via an Instagram channel. It doesn't have to be like this entire website and this huge thing. Like, look at these Instagram influencers who have a bazillion followers, but like, it's because they provide value to those people. That's why those people follow them. And then, you know, they get to go do influencer campaigns and make a lot of money because they've now built up trust with an audience that these sponsors and advertisers want access to. But they didn't just start an Instagram channel and then go get those sponsors and start selling without having the followers.
Right.
So that's definitely the first thing. And then I would say, you know, really what we've been talking about is assuming that you know what your customer wants. And that's a really bad assumption to make. And I've made it here at Entrepreneurs on Fire. John's made it here. Before Podcaster's Paradise, he went out and created this like service called Pod Platform, which was going to take people's completed audio files and basically like upload it for them and tag it and make sure that it's scheduled out. I mean, these days there are a ton of services that do that successfully. Back then, there weren't, because people didn't know how to create a podcast. They're like, I don't need you to upload my file. I need you to teach me how to record an episode. But he assumed that that's what people wanted and nobody bought it. That helped us get to Podcaster's Paradise, luckily. But that assumption can be really dangerous.
Yeah, it's interesting too how our failures kind of are just stepping stones to our success. You know, you try one thing, you realize that's not what it is, but it ends up leading you to something else. Where people said my pain point is not uploading, but creating the podcast.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's really the push for like taking action and doing something. It's okay if you don't know exactly what's going to happen or if it's the right thing or the wrong thing, or whether like, what if I start a blog, but then I decide I want a podcast? Awesome. But you're not going to find that out until you start and do it. And then you get to find out. That's great.
That is so cool and so funny you say that too, because when I started my podcast, I had done a bunch of research on what to do, what was the best thing, what was this, what was that. And then when I actually started recording, I realized there was so much I still didn't know, but I was like, I'm just doing it. Whatever happens, it happens. We'll figure it out. We'll make it work. And there was a lot of fear and like anxiety built up to actually even release the first episode. And I remember when I finally did it, it was like, all right, well, I committed to myself to do 100 episodes, to really give it a full try. So at least one episode a week for 100 weeks. And I'm like, I'm going to do this. And at first I wasn't always on time, but ever since basically like, you know, a month or two in, I basically was able to consistently put out content every single week. And you learn as you go. You know, you get the results as you go. You learn from failing, from making mistakes, and you get better each and every time. I guarantee that this podcast is 10 times, 100 times better than my very first one.
As is the case with every podcaster.
Yes, exactly. So going back to, you talk about building an audience. Now, a lot of times nowadays, especially with just Instagram, Facebook, everybody's really on social media. So a lot of people have some sort of audience. In my head, I'm thinking, what if you have no audience? But is that really true? Very few people have 0 people. But how do you go if you've only got maybe 100 followers or 300 or 1,000? You're not at that 10,000 mark on Instagram to be that influencer with a special secret, like things that they can do, the swipe ups, which I'm not either. So, I just know about it. But what do you do to build that audience in the beginning?
It's all about the content. It's about having a content plan and knowing what that content should be. Again, if you don't know what the content should be, start creating something and put it out there so that you know what it should be. And whether that's via a blog or videos or a podcast, you have to have something to offer people for them to want to come to you. You can't build an audience if you're just like, hey guys, I'm Kate Erickson. People are going to be like, okay. Hi. But if I say, hey guys, I'm Kate Erickson and I have a checklist where I'll share with you exactly how to create a system for anything in your business, all of a sudden there's probably a certain amount of people that are going to be like, whoa, I want that checklist. So you have to create valuable, free, consistent content in order to start attracting that audience, to start building that know, like, and trust, to build that authority and that credibility. Again, it could be with an email newsletter list. It could be with a blog. It could be with a podcast. It could be with a YouTube channel. Whatever's going to be right for your avatar. Again, for my avatar, they love listening to me on the podcast. Like, I thought that they'd want to read my blog post, but then I found out they don't have time for that. I still create the blog post because it's great SEO for our website, but now I do the podcast, and that's 90% of the feedback that I get on my content. Even though the blog and the podcast are the exact same thing, I write a blog post and then I create a podcast episode out of that blog post. 90% of my feedback comes from podcast episodes. So, it's just about starting to create it, get it out there, be consistent, and pivot and improve and figure out what it is that your audience really wants. That's how you're going to grow it.
So if you figure all that out and through business and growing an audience, we always hit plateaus, right? And sometimes you might plateau. What have you done when you hit that plateau to kind of push it to the next level?
Yeah, it's super frustrating, right? When you're working really hard and you do see an increase, but then you're like, wait a second, what happened? I'm not doing anything different. But it's changing. And I feel like that's just it. Is like, sometimes you just got to switch it up. Like, I had a really big plateau on the podcast where my listens actually started going down. I was like, whoa, this is not good. And I changed to a season format on my podcast. I was doing twice per week. And I started, my downloads started going down, which there's no reason why that should happen. And so I switched to a seasons format. It really freed up a lot of my time and bandwidth so that I could focus on other areas of our business, other projects. And I feel like it was kind of a new and exciting thing for the listeners of my podcast, because like maybe there was just a little bit of monotony in like what I was doing at that point. So I started doing seasons. I focused on one specific topic for 10 episodes straight. And then I would take like a 2-month break. So it was great for my listeners to be able to kind of catch up, consume content that was sequential, because a lot of my content isn't. Like if you listen to my last 5 episodes, they really have nothing to do with each other. And the season content gave people kind of like a theme and a consistency to follow. So I think when you've plateaued, it's time to look at like, when you plateaued, you're probably feeling pretty comfortable with everything that you're doing. And that means it's time to get uncomfortable and try something new, bring out something, a new product, a new service, and always be looking for that feedback. You know, we talked about one-on-one conversations with your avatar in the beginning to try and figure out what their pain points are, but those conversations should never stop. Like you should always be asking for feedback on your blog, on your podcast, on your videos, on your social media. Because that's how we evolve. That's how we improve over time.
Yeah. And I said it to her earlier, but I want to say congratulations. You've been doing your podcast for 4 years. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think that just goes to show you that in any consistently successful business model, you've got to be able to adapt, shift, pivot, like you said. And I really like that. I've kind of been plateauing a little bit myself with this podcast, and I love all my people who listen to me and send messages. And I'm just wondering, like, what can we do to kind of take it to that next level, which is always on my mind with Unleash Success. What's the next level of success? And so I think that was a lot of valuable information, though. Sometimes we do need to make a shift. We need to make a change. So going back to building a business and increasing your revenue, you guys have a few physical products, with the Mastery Journal, and some books, and you've also got the free podcast course, and then you've got the online community. With the physical products and maybe any kind of product that people buy, what are the steps that you go through to create something like that? I mean, specifically, maybe the Mastery Journal. I thought that was a great physical product, which is very different than in online entrepreneurship to create a physical product. Why did you guys create that, and how did you do it?
So that kind of goes back to what we were chatting about earlier about high barriers. Like, nobody creates a physical product because it's a big PIA. Like, there's a lot of work that goes into it. You need money to fund it. And so John's really good at kind of identifying these opportunities and these spaces where we could do really well doing something if we're willing to put in the time, the money, the effort, the work. Because there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there who are doing well, but maybe not well enough that they have money to invest in creating a physical product. Or maybe they're solopreneurs and they might have the money, but they just don't have the time or the resources to be able to create something like that. So we kind of hit like this place in the business where people were loving online, like online's still doing great. But there's something about like physical receiving, holding, tangible. And I love all things online, but maybe you can relate, maybe you can't. If you love the Mastery Journal, you probably can. There's something cool about writing things down. Your mind processes it in a different way. Like, it feels different to accomplish a task when I get to write down that I accomplished it versus clicking a button to check a box online. And so, like, I think John sensed that there would be a good response to something like this. And so we went out, we found the team to help us create it. It was not easy at all. The first journal we created was the Freedom Journal, and we launched that and the Mastery Journal, which came out 1 year later on Kickstarter. Running a Kickstarter campaign was totally new territory for us. It was really, really hard. But it was really cool too, because we were able to tap into a brand new audience. The Kickstarter platform's incredible. And a lot of people found us on there who never would have found us on the podcast or by Googling entrepreneurship. And the Freedom Journal and the Mastery Journal kind of have like a wider cast net, like is really not super niche. Because you don't have to be an entrepreneur to still benefit from the Freedom Journal or the Mastery Journal. So that was kind of cool because it opened us up to some new prospective followers. Yeah, it was a really great experience. And I think that it worked because it was different. Again, like we're comfortable. We've created all these online courses and, we have sponsorships on the podcast. Like, what can we do to like really disrupt what's happening overall in the online space right now, and especially in our business?
Totally. I was recently listening to your podcast, and you went over a few productivity hacks and everything. I was just wondering if we can go over some, tools that you use that really maximize your efforts. You don't have to go through the whole list of them, but some tools that you use online. And also, I was thinking about this when you said hiring a virtual assistant or virtual team. Like, where do we go to find these people?
Yeah. So some of my favorite online tools, Asana is a biggie, which is a project and task management tool. Do you use this?
I don't. I just was listening to you and I was listening and I was like, man, that sounds pretty effective. I might have to check this out. I've heard of it before, but when you were describing it, just the ability to manage all the projects all-in-one kind of capability, it sounded pretty incredible.
Yeah. So I love Asana. It's Asana. I use the free version. I've been using the free version for like 4 or 5 years, even though they've tried to get me to go to the pro version. Like, I just don't need it. It does everything I need it to do. I manage all of our projects. I manage all of my tasks in there. I set personal reminders for myself in Asana. You could set things to repeat. You get reminded of it. What I love about it is, much like the Mastery Journal has like trained me to every single morning open that up and be like, okay, what's my focus today? I have a lot of stuff that I'm going to do that's like potentially black hole work, like emails and social media and that kind of stuff. Like, I need to do that stuff, but like, what's at the core of my goal today? Like, what's that eat that frog project that I'm going to really start with? And the Mastery Journal really helps me do that. What Asana helps me do is never have to think about what I'm going to work on that day, no matter what time of day it is, because I just organize it by due date. And every morning I've got like 12, 15 tasks that like, that's what I'm going to do that day. So it kind of takes the guesswork out of being productive, I guess, once you have it set up.
Yeah. How much time each week do you spend planning out your projects? Or is it just you have a project phase where you plan it out in the beginning and then it schedules it accordingly? Yeah,
the latter. I mean, I try and plan everything out in the beginning and set like any type of task or reminder that I would need at one time. And then, and then it's set it and forget it until it's time to do it. Like we just started working on putting together an evergreen webinar, and we haven't done that for a really long time. So like, there are tasks and things coming up that I didn't think of when I was planning the project, but there's a mobile app for Asana and a desktop version. So what's super nice is anytime I think like, oh shoot, I got to remember to do that, I just type it in Asana real quick, put the due date to tomorrow, and then I know I'm not going to forget about it. So it's great accountability, peace of mind. Like, it keeps me in check big time. And man, I don't know what I would do without it. I love Post-it notes and stuff too, but something about just like knowing that I can go in there, set it to a due date and see like everything I have to accomplish, it just makes it so easy.
Yeah, I just recently started getting, I know this sounds crazy, but Google Calendar, right? And I really didn't use that very much to its full capability, but I love it now because instead of waking up being like, all right, what was that address? What's the phone number? What's the link? It's all right in there. And for me, instead of worrying about, I have to remember this or I have to go find this, it was just all in one place. And I think that's kind of what Asana sounds like it does. And I'm kind of excited. I'm definitely going to try it out. I'll let you know how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. And I totally agree with Google Calendar. I mean, that's actually before Asana, I probably look at my calendar first just to see like, okay, what time block do I have before I need to be like switching into something else? And today was a perfect example. This morning I got to my computer. I had up until the time that you and I met for this chat to work on everything else in my business. So like right away in the morning, I knew like you've got, these 6 hours or whatever it is. This is the time that you have today to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So it kind of helps you time manage as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are some other actions or apps or tools that you use?
TextExpander is a great one. TextExpander allows you to use shortcuts for sentences, words, paragraphs. And I use it for entire emails. Common questions that we get, I have a TextExpander. So my bio is actually a good example. Like, I'm on a lot of podcasts or do like a lot of guest posts, and people always ask you for your bio. Instead of like having to go find, copy, paste, or like write it all out, I just type in K bio, and that one little, those 4 keys expand out to my entire bio. So huge time saver with like things that you type over and over. I do it with my email address, our website, you name it. So TextExpander is awesome. I love it.
I was going to ask you a different question, but I've decided this was something that's interesting. In a world where podcasting now has become so much more prevalent, I think there's like 60% of Americans now actually listen to podcasts. Before, when you guys started Entrepreneurs on Fire, nobody even knew what a podcast was. How do you consistently differentiate yourself from other people in the space?
That's really tough, especially today in 2018 when there's a lot of people podcasting. And I really think that John calls it the UVD, unique value distinguisher. And it's really what sets you apart from, if you want to call it, your competition, or the other people in your space doing something similar. So like if you Googled entrepreneur podcast, like there'd be a bazillion results, right? A lot of people interview entrepreneurs or they have a podcast that talks about entrepreneurship. But for the first 5+ years that John was doing the podcast, there was not another daily interview podcast that interviewed successful entrepreneurs. So finding what's unique about what it is that you do, for him, it was daily because nobody else was doing daily, is so key. And of course, you know, it's you. It has to be you. And that's really hard when you first start out. Because I remember being so nervous when I first started my podcast. Like it does not sound like me. It's not me. It's like me trying to like be somebody else so that I sound good on the microphone. And what's unique about every single podcast in the entire world is the host. And so we really need to embrace that more, practice more so that we can get to the place where we found our voice, where we found a certain comfort level in being us, like on the mic, because, you know, that could mean the difference between, there are a lot of podcasts that, you know, could do the same thing, but the ones I listen to because I like the host. Like Guy Raz and How I Built This. I just love Guy Raz. I think he's an incredible interviewer. I love that he seems to ask questions that like I'm thinking before I can even finish thinking them. You know, a lot of people interview big businesses, but I listen to his podcast because I like him.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. Finding your true voice is something that, you know, it takes time and you have to work on it. And not even just in a podcast, but in business, right? What is your mission in business? What is your goal in business? And how are you going to help people? And, you know, one of the things we talk about always is kind of the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, which the way I interpret it is that 80% of our results come from 20% of our actions. The key really is to know which action to take. And so I'm wondering for building, you guys have built a 7-figure empire. I mean, anybody who knows podcasting knows you guys, and you did a great job in today's world. What is one action we can take that can give us, you know, 80% of the results to really grow our business online?
Just start.
And it's funny how many people don't start that, right? I mean, it's like, I don't know if you actually even said this recently or on one of your podcasts, but when's the best time to plant a tree?
Yeah, you know, exactly.
Yeah, 20 years ago, the second best time is right now.
Right now, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess to expand a little bit on that is like, there comes a time when the scales have to tip. Like we're really good at consuming stuff because it's a really good way to put off the fact that we actually have to start doing what we're learning. Because it's more comfortable to listen to other people teach stuff than it is to actually go out and try and do it, because you have all this fear around, what if it doesn't work for me? What if I fail? What if people think that I look stupid? What if people make fun of me? Or like any number of like all these imposter syndrome things, right? That's why we love to consume, because it means that we're not doing the thing. But there's only so much that you can consume before you have to tip the scale and start putting into practice what you're learning. Otherwise, you're just a consumer. If you want to be a business owner, an entrepreneur, and start generating revenue, you have to start doing the things. So tip the scale, stop consuming and buying and investing in a bazillion different things, and start doing the work.
Yeah, I love it. It's just right to the point and something that a lot of people really need to hear. And honestly, even as an entrepreneur and as, you know, a podcast host, I've been doing this for almost a year now and everything. Just the other day where I'm like, man, I really need to step up and just do the work. You know, I wrote down a list. I call it my power action list. It's just the things that I need to do today that make me feel a lot better. And that's exactly, it's right. You know, a lot of times we just need a good kick in the butt and get ready to do some work.
Yeah.
So Kate, I absolutely love this conversation. Thank you so much. Where can everybody find you online?
EOFire.com.
Perfect. And if anybody want to connect with you on the podcast, it is Kate's Take. And then, and also too, so for the last question, you guys have accomplished so much. You've done so well, and I love following the journey, but I always believe there's a next level of success. So for you, what is that next level?
I think the next level for us right now is really finding ways to pay it forward. We've found a lot of great organizations that we're really passionate about, like Pencils of Promise. We've built schools with them. We've contributed a lot to their teacher programs. We're doing everything we can to contribute here in Puerto Rico post Hurricane Maria, which there's still a lot of help that is needed. So I think that that's the next level for us, is really, finding out how we can help others.
Yeah, I love that. Pencils of Promise is actually a phenomenal one that I've watched from afar, donated a little bit here and there, but I would love to actually build a school of my own one day. That's something that's really incredible. And obviously Puerto Rico too, got to take care of your home, right?
Yep, absolutely. Goals. I love it.
Yeah. Kate, thank you so much for coming on Unleash Success.
Yeah. And thank you for inviting me.
If you enjoyed the show and learned something of value, the one ask that I have is please go subscribe, whether you're on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube. And if you leave us a 5-star rating or review, that absolutely helps us get our message out there. Each week, I'm going to continue to interview amazing people, and we're going to break down their tools and strategies to help get you real results. Feel free to visit the website, unleashsuccess.com, and subscribe to our newsletter so you can get updates each week. And remember, knowing is not enough. Knowledge alone is not power. Action is. Because action is the only way you're going to get the results you want in life and truly live the life of your dreams. So take some action, subscribe to the podcast today, and get ready to unleash success in you.